Billionaire CEO faked disability to test poor girl until she loved him anyway. He pretended to be broke, but her love exposed the truth. He was a billionaire hiding behind a lie, trapped in a wheelchair, testing the world for kindness. She was just a waitress, struggling to survive, with nothing to offer but her heart. When their worlds collided, he thought he could control everything. Until she showed him what real love costs, and it wasn't money. Stay with me, because the moment she finds out the truth, will change everything. The lie that found love. The rain had a way of making everything feel heavier. The air, thick with the scent of wet pavement and old regrets, clung to the streets of New Orleans like memories that wouldn't let go. In the heart of the French Quarter, life pulsed on jazz notes spilling from the windows of smoky bars, lovers sharing umbrellas under flickering lamplight, and the endless dance between the rich and the forgotten playing out beneath the glow of neon sign. Clara Hayes didn't belong to either world. She wasn't rich enough to be seen, and wasn't broken enough to be pitied. She lived somewhere in between, in a world where every dollar mattered and every choice could cost her tomorrow. 28, with eyes that had seen too much but still held onto a sliver of hope, Clara was the kind of woman you'd pass by on the street without noticing, and that was fine with her. She didn't need anyone's pity. She just needed the rain to stop so she could finish her shift and get home. Inside Lou's diner, where she worked nights waiting tables, the smell of coffee and fried food wrapped around her like an old sweater. The place had seen better days, much like most of its patrons. The regulars, truckers, lost souls, and the occasional tourist looking for authentic charm kept the place alive, but barely. "Clara, table 4 needs refills," Lou barked from behind the counter, wiping his hands on a grease-stained towel. "I got it," she called back, pushing a strand of damp hair behind her ear as she grabbed the coffee pot. She didn't mind the work, it was honest, and after everything she'd been through, losing her mom to cancer, her dad to the bottle, and her dreams to the reality of bills, honesty was about the only thing she had left. She moved through the diner with practiced ease, offering tired smiles and polite small talk, until she saw him. He was sitting alone at the far corner booth, hunched over, his hands tucked into the sleeves of a worn-out coat. His wheelchair barely fit between the table and the wall, and something about the way he stared into his cup made her pause. "Coffee's fresh," she said, pouring him a refill without asking. "Cold night to be out." He didn't look up. "Thanks." His voice was rough, like he hadn't used it in a while, but there was something underneath, something familiar and distant, like a melody you couldn't place. Clara didn't press him. She didn't ask why he was alone or why his eyes looked like they'd forgotten how to hope. She just refilled his cup, offered a soft smile, and moved on. He came back the next night, and the next. Always the same booth, always the same quiet. And every night she served him coffee, asked nothing, and left him in peace. But inside, curiosity burned. Who was he? Across town, in a high-rise office overlooking the city, Ethan Grayson watched the world from behind glass walls. CEO of Grayson Industries, heir to a fortune built on steel and sweat, he had everything money could buy, and none of what it couldn't. For years he'd played the part, the ruthless businessman, the untouchable bachelor, the man who didn't need anyone, but it was all an act. Beneath the tailored suits and the polished smile, Ethan was a man haunted by betrayal. 10 years ago, the woman he loved left him when he needed her most, after the accident that took his mobility, his pride, and nearly his will to live. He'd learned then love was conditional, trust was a luxury, and people were only as loyal as the benefits you offered. Respect on Saturday. So, he built walls, around his heart, around his life. But now he was tired. Tired of the fakes, tired of the gold diggers, tired of wondering if anyone could love the man, not the money. Expecting some quick fix? He'd shed his name, his fortune, and his power, disappearing into the city as just another man in a wheelchair, to see if kindness still existed. That's when he met Clara. Back at the diner, Clara was closing up when Lou called her over. In the corner, Lou muttered, nodding toward Ethan. You know him? She shook her head. He's just a customer. Lou frowned. He's been here every night for a week. Doesn't eat much, doesn't talk much. You be careful. Clara smiled. I can handle myself. But even as she said it, she glanced over at the booth. Ethan was watching her now, his eyes no longer hidden. And for the first time, she felt something shift. That night, as she walked home in the rain, Clara couldn't shake the feeling. There was something about him, something broken but not beyond repair, something that called to the part of her that still believed in second chances. She didn't know that across the city, Ethan was thinking the same thing. He hadn't meant to care. She was supposed to be just another face in the crowd, another test of humanity. But her kindness, it wasn't like the others. She didn't look at him with pity or expectation. She didn't flirt for tips or fawn over his wheelchair. She just saw him. And that terrified him more than anything. Because if she saw the real him, would she still stay? In a city where everyone wore masks, two souls, both tired, both hiding, were about to discover that love wasn't found in perfection, but in the courage to be seen. And in the rain-soaked streets of New Orleans, something real was about to begin. Section 1. The Stranger at Table 4. The rain didn't stop. It never did when Clara needed it to. She stood by the window of Lou's diner, staring out at the empty street beyond. The neon sign buzzed above her head, casting a tired red glow on the puddles that rippled with every drop. Inside, the diner was nearly silent. It was late, even for New Orleans. Lou had gone to the back, leaving Clara alone to clean up, as usual. Her shift should have ended an hour ago, but she didn't mind. The quiet was her sanctuary, her time to think, to breathe. Except tonight she wasn't alone. He was back. The man in the wheelchair. Clara wiped her hands on her apron and glanced over her shoulder. He sat there, as he always did, in the far corner booth, back to the wall, eyes downcast. His coat was damp, and his hair clung to his forehead in dark strands. But his face held something that drew her in, something unspoken. She didn't even know his name. You okay over there? She asked, stepping closer, coffee pot in hand. He looked up, startled, like he hadn't noticed her approach. His eyes were gray, stormy, and full of something she couldn't quite place. He said quietly, just thinking. Clara offered him a small smile. Well, I'm about to close up, but you can stay a little longer if you want. The coffee's still hot. He nodded, his hands wrapped tightly around the chipped ceramic mug. Thanks. She hesitated, then slid into the seat across from him. You've been coming here a lot lately. He stiffened. Is that a problem? No, she said quickly. No, it's just, most people don't. His lips twitched, almost a smile. Most people don't like the rain. Clara laughed softly. Yeah, well, most people aren't as stubborn as me. For a moment they just sat there, the hum of the lights and the patter of rain filling the space between them. Finally he spoke. Why do you work here? She blinked. Excuse me? You seem like you should be somewhere else, doing something more. Clara tilted her head. You get all that from pouring coffee? He shrugged. I notice things. She leaned back, studying him. And what about you? What's your story? He hesitated, then gave her a half-truth. Just passing through. Clara didn't push. She knew what it meant to run from something. Later, after he left, Clara found herself staring at the empty booth, wondering why he felt like a puzzle she wanted to solve. The next night he returned. And same booth, same silence. But this time he wasn't alone. Two men followed him in, slick in suits that didn't belong in a place like Lou's. They hovered near the door, eyes scanning, but said nothing. Clara's heart raced. Something about them felt wrong. She walked over, trying to keep her voice steady. Hey, you okay? He looked up, eyes flashing. They're just business associates. They won't stay long. Clara frowned. You sure? He nodded. But the men didn't leave. They sat at the counter, watching. Clara could feel their gaze on her, on him, and it made her skin crawl. Lou came out from the back, took one look, and muttered, "Trouble." Clara ignored him. She poured coffee for the stranger, her hands trembling slightly. "What's your name?" she asked, needing something, anything, to ground herself. He paused. "Ethan." It felt like a lie, but it also felt real. "I'm Clara." Their eyes met, something unspoken passing between them. The men left first, silent and sharp. Ethan stayed behind, his hands clenched. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice low. "I didn't mean to bring trouble." Clara shook her head. "It's okay, just be careful." He nodded, and for the first time she saw it, the crack in his armor, the fear. That night she couldn't sleep. She kept seeing his face, hearing his voice, and wondering what kind of man brought shadows with him. The next evening she almost didn't go to work. Something inside her warned her to stay away, to let whatever this was pass. But she went. And he was there. This time, he was waiting outside. "Walk with me," he asked. Clara hesitated. "It's raining." "I don't mind. I am..." She didn't either. They walked in silence for a while, the city glowing around them, the streets slick and alive. His wheelchair moved smoothly, as if he'd been doing this forever. Clara stayed close, watching the way he watched everything. "Why do you come here?" she asked suddenly. "To the diner?" He glanced at her, then away. "Because it's quiet, and because you don't ask too many questions." She smiled, despite herself. "I guess I ruined that tonight." "No," he said softly. "It's nice." They stopped at a small park, empty under the rain. Clara sat on a bench, pulling her coat tighter. Ethan stayed beside her, silent. "I lost someone," he said suddenly, "a long time ago. She left when things got hard." Clara's heart ached. "I'm sorry. I thought maybe people don't change. Maybe they're all the same." She turned to him. "Not everyone leaves." He looked at her, really looked. "Have you?" She swallowed. "I've been left, and I've thought about leaving, but I stay." They sat there, in the rain, two strangers, bound by loneliness. As they parted that night, he touched her hand. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "After seeing me." Neither of them knew it yet, but something had shifted. The test Ethan thought he controlled was slipping from his hands. And Clara, with her quiet strength, was about to challenge everything he believed, except Danielle. The letter she shouldn't have found. 3 days passed. 3 long days where Ethan didn't show up at Lou's diner. Clara noticed. She noticed the way her eyes kept darting to the corner booth, half expecting him to roll in, soaked from the rain, eyes shadowed but searching. She noticed how she checked the door every time the bell jingled, hoping, and she noticed the ache in her chest when it never was him. She tried to push it aside. Maybe he was just passing through, like he'd said. Maybe she'd never see him again. But then the envelope came. It was plain. No name, no return address. Just Clara, scrawled in a messy hand across the front. Lou found it tucked under the door early that morning. "Someone left this for you," he said, tossing it onto the counter. Clara stared at it for a long moment before picking it up. Her fingers trembled as she slid it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Clara, I'm sorry I left without saying goodbye. There are things about me you don't know, things you shouldn't know. It's better this way. You're kind, too kind for someone like me. Thank you for everything." Oh, her breath caught. It was short, cold, and final. She could almost hear his voice in the lines, distant, restrained. But it didn't feel right. Something in her gut twisted. No return address, no explanation, just gone. She folded the letter carefully, tucked it into her pocket, and wiped the corner booth clean. Again. That evening, as the rain finally gave way to a heavy mist, Clara couldn't take it anymore. She clocked out early. There was somewhere she needed to go. It wasn't hard to find him. New Orleans had its secrets, but people like Ethan left trails, if you cared enough to look. She started with the only lead she had, the men in the suits. Lou had seen them too. Not locals, he'd muttered. Look like trouble. Clara took a chance and asked around. A friend of a friend who worked security at a nearby hotel mentioned a man in a wheelchair matching Ethan's description, staying at the Leclerc, a rundown place near the river. Her heart pounded as she stood outside the building, the letter still in her coat pocket. What if he didn't want to see her? What if she was wrong? But she had to know. Room 214. The door was slightly ajar. Clara knocked. Once, twice. Ethan? No answer. She pushed it open. The room was dark, stale. A single lamp flickered by the bed and papers were scattered across the desk. The bed was unmade, the window cracked open to the night air. Afeni came again, stepping inside. Still nothing. But something caught her eye. A photograph. It lay half hidden under a stack of documents. She reached for it, heart thudding. It was old, worn at the edges. A woman, smiling, standing beside a man. Ethan, but not like she knew him. He was standing, tall, strong, confident, his arm wrapped around the woman, their faces close, happy. Clara's breath hitched. Who was she? Before she could process it, her eyes landed on another piece of paper. This one, torn, stained, but legible. A medical report. Her hands shook as she read it. And cross. Diagnosis: no permanent spinal damage. Mobility: fully restored. Status: released from care. Her knees buckled. He could walk. The door creaked. Clara spun around, eyes wide. Ethan stood there, rain dripping from his coat, eyes locked on hers. He shouldn't be here, he said, voice low, tense. She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. You lied, she whispered. He looked away. I didn't mean to. You're not, her voice broke. What? He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. It wasn't supposed to go this far. What kind of game are you playing? What kind of game are you playing? Ethan ran a hand through his wet hair, pacing. It's complicated. No, Clara said, stepping forward. You owe me the truth. And silence stretched between them, heavy, suffocating. Finally he spoke. My name isn't Ethan Cross, it's Ethan Reed. Clara blinked. Reed, as in... Yes, Reed Industries, my father's company. Her mind reeled. Reed Industries, one of the biggest names in the city. Real estate, shipping, oil, and frustration. Was, he said bitterly, not anymore. She stared, unable to process. I was supposed to take over the company, he continued, but after my parents died, I couldn't. I walked away, left it all behind. What? He met her eyes, and for the first time she saw the weight he carried. Because I didn't believe in it, in them. Money, power, it destroyed everything. Everyone. I didn't want to be a part of it. So you faked what? A disability? No, the accident was real, but the injury wasn't permanent. I stayed in the chair because I didn't want people to know who I was. I wanted to see the world the way it really was, without the name, without the money. Clara's heart pounded. So coming to the diner, talking to me, was that part of it? No, he said, stepping closer. That was real. How can I believe you? He reached into his coat and pulled out another envelope, handing it to her. Clara opened it. Inside was a deed. To the diner, Ethan said. Lou's been struggling. I bought it for you. Her knees nearly gave out. What? I wanted you to have something of your own, something no one could take away. Tears filled her eyes. Why? Because you saw me, he said softly. Not the money, not the name, just me. She shook her head, backing away. You lied. You tested me. I didn't mean to. I don't care what you meant, she cried. You don't get to decide who I am or what I deserve. Ethan's face crumbled. Clara? She turned, clutching the deed, and ran. Outside, the rain had started again, cold and merciless. Clara stood under the streetlight, heart shattered. She thought she'd found someone who understood, someone who saw her. But he'd been hiding the whole time. Back in the room, Ethan stood alone. The photo of the woman still on the desk. He picked it up, tracing the edges. If I hadn't let you go, he whispered, maybe everything would have been different. But it wasn't. And now he'd lost Clara, too. Section 3. The Man Behind the Mask. The city looked different at dawn. And still, Clara stood by the river, the deed clutched in her hand, crumpled and damp. The sunrise painted the sky in soft oranges and pinks, but none of it touched her. Her mind was a storm. She hadn't slept, couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him, Ethan, or Ethan Reed, or whoever he really was, looking at her like she was the only thing that mattered. But it was all built on lies. She pulled the letter from her coat pocket again, reading the words until they blurred. I'm sorry I left without saying goodbye. There are things about me you don't know, things you shouldn't know. It's better this way. She tore it in half. By mid-morning, Clara was back at the diner, tying her apron, trying to breathe. Lou gave her a look. You all right, kid? She nodded, even though she wasn't. The door chimed, and for a wild second, her heart jumped. But it was just another customer, just another ordinary day. She wanted to forget. She wanted to bury it. But the envelope weighed in her pocket, heavy as guilt. Across the city, Ethan stood at the window of his penthouse. He hated this place. It was everything he walked away from. Glass, steel, cold perfection. The life he was born into. He ran a hand over his jaw, unshaven, tight. He hadn't meant for Clara to find the letter. He hadn't meant for her to see the medical report, or the photo. But maybe that was the point. Maybe he wanted her to know, deep down, that he wasn't who she thought. That he didn't deserve her. The door behind him opened. Mr. Reed, your car is ready. He didn't turn. Cancel it. The assistant hesitated. But the meeting? He said cancel it. Yes, sir. Silence. Ethan stared out at the city, 100 memories crashing through him. The accident. The fallout. And the betrayal. And then Clara. Later that evening, Clara found herself standing outside a building she hadn't visited in years. Her mother's grave. The headstone was simple, weathered. Margaret Hayes. Beloved mother. 19582008. Clara knelt, brushing the leaves away. Hey, Mom, she whispered. Her throat tightened. I don't know what to do. Tears slid down her cheeks, silent. You always told me to trust my heart. But what if my heart's wrong? What if I can't trust anyone? She closed her eyes, resting her forehead against the cold stone. And I thought I could love him. The wind stirred around her, gentle. And now I don't know. The next day, Lou handed her a small package. No return address, he said, brow furrowed. Clara opened it slowly. Inside was a journal. Her breath caught. She recognized the handwriting. Ethan's. The first page was blank, except for a note. Clara, you deserve the truth. All of it. She flipped the page, hands trembling. I was 24 when my life changed. A car crash, that's what they called it, but I knew better. It wasn't an accident. It was a warning. My father made enemies, and I paid the price. They said I'd never walk again. They were wrong, but I let them believe it. I let them think I was broken because it was easier than facing what really broke me. My family didn't love me. They loved what I could do for them, who I could become. When I stepped away, I became no one. Just Ethan, just a man in a chair, watching the world without expectations. And then I met you. Clara's heart pounded. You didn't see the chair. You didn't see the name. You saw me. And for the first time, I wanted to be seen. But I was scared of losing control, of losing you if you knew. And so I lied. I tested you, and I hate myself for that. But I need you to know, what I feel for you is real. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I'll wait. As long as it takes. Clara closed the journal, her chest tight, her eyes wet. He was broken. But so was she. That night she stood outside his building. The doorman recognized her, surprised. Miss Hayes? She nodded, unsure. Mr. Reed isn't home. Her heart sank. But he left this. The doorman handed her a key. Penthouse. The elevator ride felt endless. The penthouse was dark, silent. Clara stepped inside, every breath shaking. Photos lined the wall. His parents, and him as a child. And one photo, newer. Her. At the diner, laughing, caught in a moment she didn't know he'd captured. Her fingers brushed the frame, tender. She moved deeper into the apartment, drawn to the grand piano near the window. A note rested on the keys. If you're reading this, it means you haven't given up on me. I haven't given up on you either. Look inside. She opened the bench. Inside another envelope. And a small box. Clara sat, hands trembling, as she unfolded the letter. There's something I didn't tell you. That photo you found? The woman beside me. Her name was Emily. She was my fiancée. She died in that crash. And I've blamed myself ever since. Clara's breath hitched. I never thought I'd feel anything again after her. Until you. You brought me back. But I didn't know how to let go of the past. This ring was meant for her. But I'm giving it to you. Not to replace her. But because I want to build something new. Clara opened the box, and there it was. Simple, elegant, and a diamond ring. Her tears fell freely now, her heart breaking open. Behind her, the door opened. Clara? She turned. Ethan stood there, eyes wide, breathless. I didn't know if you'd come. She rose slowly, the ring in her hand. You lied to me. I know. You hurt me. I know. But I'm here. He stepped closer, hope flickering in his eyes. Why? She looked at him, really looked. Because despite everything, the lies, the pain, she saw him. Not the billionaire. Not the man in the chair. It's just Ethan. Because love isn't perfect, she said softly. It's messy and hard and worth it. His voice broke. Do you forgive me? She nodded, tears falling. Yes. And when he took her hand, when he pulled her into his arms, it wasn't the end of something broken. It was the beginning of something real. In Section 4, when the past refuses to die. The days that followed felt like a fragile dream. Ethan and Clara tried to rebuild, piece by fragile piece, as if willing love into something solid could erase the cracks. The city still bustled around them, but for a while they carved out something quiet. Shared breakfasts, long walks in places no one knew them, moments that felt almost normal. But nothing stayed still for long. It started with a phone call. Clara was at the diner, wiping down tables, when her phone buzzed. A number she didn't recognize. She hesitated, then answered. "Hello." Silence. Then a voice, low and unfamiliar. "Miss Hayes." "Yes, who's this?" "I think we should meet." "Who are you?" "It's about Ethan Reed and his father." Her blood turned cold. "Yes, you came out." "Midnight, Pier 12. Quick." She tried to shake it off, but it clung to her, heavy. Ethan didn't mention anything unusual when he picked her up that evening. Didn't notice the way her hands trembled. They spent the night watching old movies in his apartment, wrapped in blankets, pretending the world wasn't waiting outside. But even as he held her, she wasn't fully there. Her mind spun. What don't I know? At midnight, Clara stood alone at the pier. The water lapped quietly against the wooden posts, the city lights flickering in the distance. Fog curled around her ankles, cold and damp. A figure emerged from the shadows. Tall, older, a sharp suit and sharper eyes. "Miss Hayes?" She stiffened. "Who are you?" "My name is Victor Hale. I used to work for Ethan's father." "Why are you telling me this?" He stepped closer, pulling a manila envelope from his coat. "Because you deserve to know who Ethan really is." She stared at the envelope, her heart pounding. "He told me about the accident." Victor's lips twisted. "Did he tell you why it happened?" Clara's breath hitched. "He didn't step away from his family because they betrayed him. He stepped away because he betrayed them." "No, that's not true." "Ethan's father was ruthless, yes. But Ethan, he was set to inherit it all, until greed got in the way. Until the deal went wrong. That crash wasn't a warning, Miss Hayes. It was payback." Her knees felt weak. Victor shoved the envelope into her hands. He forgot the now familiar sound. And then he was gone. Ethan found her in the apartment hours later, staring at the envelope, pale and silent. "Clara, what is that?" She looked up, eyes wide, haunted. Who was Victor Hale? His face changed, a shadow falling over him. "Where did you hear that name?" "He found me. He said you lied, that the accident wasn't a warning, that it was because you..." "Stop. And tell me it's not true." Silence. Then, "I can't." The truth spilled out, raw and ugly. Ethan pacing the room, hands in his hair, voice breaking. "I was young, reckless. I thought I could outsmart them all. My father, his partners. I made a deal behind their backs, one that would have ruined everything." He looked at her, hollow. "They found out. They came after me." "And Emily?" Clara's voice was a whisper. "She paid the price." Clara sank onto the couch, her world unraveling. "You let me believe you were the victim?" "I was, but I wasn't innocent." Tears burned her eyes. "All this time, I thought I knew you. I wanted to tell you." "Then why didn't you?" "Because I didn't want to lose you." She couldn't breathe. The room was too small, too loud with silence. "I need to go." Ethan reached for her, desperate. "Clara, please." "Yes." She pulled away, her heart shattering. "I can't." And she left. The city was endless, swallowing her whole as she walked, aimless. Her mind reeled. She had forgiven him once. Could she do it again? Did love survive when trust was broken? Twice. She didn't know. At the diner, Lou found her in the back, curled on a stool. "Trouble?" he asked softly. She nodded, eyes red. He sat beside her, silent for a long time. You know, he said, when my wife died, I thought I'd never love again. Clara looked at him, surprised. But I did, he smiled faintly. And it wasn't perfect, it was messy and hard and worth every damn second. And if he's not who I thought. Then you love who he is, not who you imagined. The next day, a package arrived at the diner. No name. Inside a photograph. Ethan, years ago. And a woman, Emily. On the back, a note in Ethan's handwriting. She was my past. You are my future. If you'll have me. Clara stood outside his apartment that night, her heart in her throat. She knocked. The door opened. Ethan stood there, eyes tired, hope flickering. I don't know if I can forgive you, she said. I know. But I still love you. He broke, fell to his knees. And then I'll spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of it. In that moment, they weren't perfect. They were possible. And sometimes, that's enough. Section 5. The letter she shouldn't have found. The days that followed were tender but uncertain, like walking barefoot on broken glass. Clara stayed. She hadn't fully forgiven Ethan, not yet, but she couldn't leave either. Love had tied them together, knotted with pain and hope. Each moment between them was laced with the silent question, can we survive this? Ethan gave her space. He didn't push. Instead, he showed up in quiet ways. Fresh coffee in the morning, soft music in the evenings, stories of his past told with no defenses, just truth. Clara listened, but her heart stayed guarded. Until one night, when curiosity, or maybe fear, got the better of her. Ethan had left early for a meeting. Clara sat alone in his apartment, a book open but unread in her lap. Her eyes wandered, restless. His study door was cracked open. She hadn't been inside. They didn't talk much about his work. She knew he was slowly returning to the corporate world he'd once fled, but he didn't boast or burden her with details. Still, something pulled her. She stood, hesitant, then pushed the door open. The room was elegant and minimal. Dark wood, leather chairs, shelves lined with files and a few photos. A younger Ethan with his father, another with Emily, and one, more recent, of Clara herself, framed quietly on his desk. Her breath caught. She moved closer. Papers lay scattered, but neat. Contracts, financial projections. And then, tucked between two folders, she saw it. A letter. Her name written in Ethan's hand. She shouldn't. But she did. Clara. If you're reading this, it means I've failed you. There are things I haven't told you, not because I wanted to lie, but because I didn't know how to bear the weight of them myself, let alone ask you to. You know about the accident, about my betrayal, but you don't know everything. You don't know that after Emily died, I didn't just walk away from my father's empire. I walked into something darker. I tried to make amends. I sold pieces of my inheritance to pay off debts, to silence the men who wanted me dead. But it wasn't enough. Victor Hale is one of them. He didn't just come to warn you. He came to finish what was started. I've been protecting you from the shadows I brought into my life. If something happens to me, please don't blame yourself. Don't let my past poison your future. I love you, enough to let you go, if it keeps you safe. Ethan. Her hands shook as she lowered the letter. A sharp knock at the door jolted her. She quickly tucked the letter back. The knock came again. She opened it. Victor Hale stood there. Mrs. Hayes. Her heart raced. What do you want? I warned you once. You didn't listen? His eyes scanned the apartment behind her. Where's Ethan? He's not here. Victor smiled, cold. Then you and I have time to talk. She tried to close the door, but he wedged his foot in. You think you know him now? You think he's changed? I know enough. Do you? He leaned closer. Do you know he's still paying me, that every cent he earns goes to keeping me quiet? You're lying. Am I? He pulled a small recorder from his pocket, pressed play. Ethan's voice tense. She can't know. I'm handling it. Victor stopped it. He thought he could buy peace. But men like me, we don't stop. She stared frozen. What do you want? I want what I'm owed. He pulled out a folded document. This is a deed, South Wharf property, signed to me, and we disappear. I'm not giving you anything. Then Ethan will lose more than his past. He'll lose you. And suddenly Ethan's voice rang out behind them. No, Victor, you've already lost. Victor turned. Ethan stood in the hallway, eyes blazing. I knew you'd come, he said. I've been waiting. Clara looked between them, her mind spinning. Victor's smirk faltered. You don't have what it takes. I do now. Ethan pulled a small recorder from his own pocket, playing back Victor's threats. I've got you. Victor lunged, but before he could reach Ethan, security burst into the hallway, grabbing him. And set me up, Victor roared. Ethan stepped closer, calm. No, Victor, I ended it. Later, the apartment was quiet again. Clara sat on the couch, the letter heavy in her hands. You weren't going to tell me. Ethan sat beside her, exhausted. I wanted to, but I didn't want to lose you. He almost did. He looked at her, broken. I'm tired of hiding, of trying to protect you from me. She touched his face, gently. Then stop. That night, there were no more secrets. They talked until dawn, about everything. About the money, the guilt, the fear, and about love. Not perfect, but real. And sometimes that's enough. Section 6. The storm they didn't see coming. For a moment, it seemed as if peace had finally wrapped itself around them. With Victor Hale gone and no more shadows lurking in the corners, Clara and Ethan could breathe. Not completely, not yet, but enough to start imagining a life where they didn't wake up wondering who would come knocking. Ethan sold the South Wharf property, not under duress, not to pay off some ghost from his past, but by choice. He donated the proceeds to a foundation in Emily's name, a way to close a chapter that had never truly been written in ink, only in sorrow. Clara went back to work part-time, slowly finding her own rhythm again. Photography wasn't just a job. It was how she saw the world, how she felt it. And now, with Ethan's truth laid bare, she could feel again. They weren't perfect, but they were together. The storm. It started with a call. Clara was in the middle of editing photos when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. But something, maybe instinct, maybe fate, made her answer. Hello. Pause. Then Clara Hayes. Yes. This is Officer Daniels, NYPD. I'm calling about Ethan Reynolds. To you start stomach dropped. What happened? There's been an accident. The hospital was too bright, too clean, too quiet. Clara's heart pounded as she rushed through the corridors, desperate for answers. She spotted a nurse. Ethan Reynolds, where is he? The nurse hesitated, then pointed. Room 317, he's stable, but... Clara didn't wait to hear more. She pushed open the door, and there he was. Alive, but not the same. Ethan lay in the bed, eyes closed, a bandage around his head, bruises on his arms. Machines beeped softly around him. Ethan, Clara's voice cracked. His eyes fluttered open, groggy. Clara. Tears streamed down her face as she rushed to his side. What happened? Are you okay? He tried to sit up, winced. Car accident. Someone ran a red light. I'm fine, just banged up. But he didn't look fine. Not to her. Not to the part of her that had already lost too much to believe in luck. Days passed. Ethan came home. But something was different. He was distant, distracted. Clara tried to be patient. But the wall between them grew higher each day. One night, as rain lashed the windows, Clara finally confronted him. "You're not telling me everything." Ethan sat in silence, staring at the glass. "Talk to me, Ethan." He turned, pain etched into every line of his face. "I'm losing it, Clara." "What are you talking about?" He pressed his fingers to his temple. "I'm forgetting things. The doctor said there might be damage. Memory, maybe more." She shook her head. "You're going to be okay." "You don't know that." "Then we'll face it, together." But he pulled away. Day by day. Night by night. He stopped joining her for coffee. Stopped smiling at her jokes. Stopped saying "I love you." Then one morning, she found his side of the bed empty. And a note. "I can't do this to you. You deserve more than a broken man. I'm sorry." He was gone. Clara searched everywhere. His office, the hospital, even the beach where they'd first watched the sunrise together. Nothing. She sat on the sand, waves crashing around her, clutching the note. And for the first time in years, she felt truly alone. Weeks passed. Life went on, but Clara didn't. And she worked. She smiled, but inside she waited. For a sign. For him. And then one day a letter arrived. No return address. Her name on the envelope. Inside, a photograph. Ethan, standing on a dock in Maine, looking out at the water. And a message. If I hadn't walked away, maybe everything would be different. Her heart pounded. He was alive. But still running. Clara stood, gripping the letter. And for the first time since he left, she knew what she had to do. She was done waiting. It was time to find him. Section 7. The journey back to him. The road to Maine stretched out before her, like a memory she hadn't lived yet. Clara drove in silence, the letter from Ethan folded neatly on the passenger seat beside her. The photograph, too, his face turned away, caught in a moment of solitude, of pain. She'd studied it 100 times since it arrived, tracing the outline of his shoulders, wondering what thoughts weighed him down. She wasn't sure what she would say when she found him. Was she angry? Yes. Heartbroken? Absolutely. But more than that, she was tired. Tired of watching love slip through her fingers like sand. Tired of waiting for life to happen to her, instead of standing up and taking it back. Maine greeted her with a gray sky and a biting wind, the kind that whispered of storms not yet seen. She pulled into the small coastal town where the photograph was taken. Camden, the postmark had read. The kind of place where everyone knew everyone else, and strangers didn't stay strangers for long. The dock looked just like the picture. Old wooden planks, weathered by salt and time, stretched into the sea. Fishing boats bobbed gently, their ropes creaking in the cold breeze. Clara stood at the edge, the letter clutched in her hand, her heart pounding with every crashing wave. "Can I help you, miss?" She turned to see an older man, fisherman by the look of him, wiping his hands on a rag. "I'm looking for someone, Ethan Reynolds." The man squinted. "Tall fella, quiet, been renting the old Whitley cabin up the hill?" Clara nodded, breath catching. "Not sure he's much for visitors these days. Keeps to himself. I have to see him." The man shrugged, pointing up a narrow dirt road. "Cabin's just past the bend. You'll find it." She found it. A small wooden cabin nestled among pine trees, smoke curling from the chimney. Her feet felt like lead as she walked up the path. Every step carried the weight of their shared past. Every kiss, every fight, every whispered promise. She raised her hand to knock, paused, and then knocked anyway. Footsteps. The door opened. And there he was. Ethan. Thinner, paler, but alive. His eyes widened when he saw her. Clara. She didn't wait. He stepped inside, past him, past the fear that threatened to root her to the spot. "What the hell are you doing here, Ethan?" He closed the door softly, leaning against it like he needed the support. "And I told you in the letter that you're broken, that I deserve more, that you can't do this." Her voice shook. "Do you really think you get to decide that for me?" He didn't answer. "Do you really think you can disappear again and I'll just go on like nothing happened?" His hands clenched at his sides. "I didn't want to hurt you." "You did hurt me." Her voice cracked, tears welling up. "You left me, Ethan. I've spent every day wondering if you were alive, if you were okay, and you were just here, hiding." "I wasn't hiding." He turned away, walking to the fireplace. "I was protecting you." "From what? From you?" He looked at her then, truly looked, and something broke. Yes. Silence stretched between them, thick and heavy. She stepped closer. "You think losing you again is protection? You think watching you walk away, not knowing why, not understanding, is love?" "I'm not the man you met, Clara. I don't even know if I'm the man I was. The accident, it changed things." "Then let me know you now. Let me love this version of you." His shoulders sagged. "I'm scared." "So am I." He sat, hands shaking. "The doctor said the memory loss could get worse, that I could forget everything." She knelt in front of him, took his hands in hers. "Then I'll remember for both of us." For a long time he didn't speak. Then, quietly, "You should hate me." "I don't." "Why?" "Because you're still mine." They sat there, in the flickering light of the fire, holding on to each other like it was the only truth left in the world. And she didn't know what came next. Neither did he. But for the first time since the storm, they were facing it together. Later, as the wind howled outside, Ethan pulled out a small box from the drawer. "I was going to give you this before?" He opened it. A ring. Simple, elegant. Her breath caught. "Yes." "I was waiting for the right moment. But maybe there's no perfect time. Maybe there's just now." He slid the ring onto her finger. "No matter what happens, no matter what I forget, I won't let go again." She kissed him, tears mingling with laughter. "Then don't." Section 8. When the past comes calling. Morning light crept through the cabin windows, soft and golden, casting long shadows over the wooden floorboards. Clara stirred first, wrapped in Ethan's arms, her head against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heart. It felt almost unreal, this fragile peace, this moment of stillness after weeks of chaos. She ran her fingers gently along his hand, now entwined with hers, the ring catching a glimmer of light. He was here. They were together. But deep inside, a quiet fear lingered. How long would it last? Ethan woke with a groan, pulling her closer. "You're not a dream, right?" She smiled softly, pressing a kiss to his chest. "Not unless we're both dreaming." "Good." He leaned back, eyes searching hers. "I don't want to wake up." They stayed like that for a while, wrapped in warmth, pretending the world outside didn't exist, but it did, and it never stayed quiet for long. By noon, Clara ventured into town for groceries. The town was small, charming, the kind of place where strangers stood out. Eyes followed her as she moved through the tiny market, polite smiles masking curiosity. "Back again?" the woman at the counter asked, scanning the bread and fruit. Clara hesitated. "I'm visiting someone." The woman nodded knowingly. "Reckon it's Ethan Reynolds, huh?" Clara's eyes widened. "Small town," the woman explained. "Folks talk. Didn't think he had anyone, though. Good to see." Clara forced a smile, but unease crept in. What do you mean he didn't have anyone? Oh, just that he's been keeping to himself. A lot of folks wondered why he came back. Not many do. Clara gathered her bags, her pulse quickening. What do you mean, came back? The woman blinked. Didn't you know? Ethan grew up here, left after high school, didn't come back until a few months ago. Strange, really. No one knew why. Clara drove back in silence, the road a blur. Why hadn't he told her? Why hide that this place wasn't just a retreat? It was his past? When she returned, Ethan was outside chopping wood, sweat glistening on his brow despite the chill. He smiled when he saw her, but it faded quickly as he caught the look in her eyes. The sun went down. You grew up here. Her voice was quiet but sharp. Why didn't you tell me? He froze. Clara, This isn't just some place you ran to, is it? You came back. You've been hiding more than I thought. He set down the axe, running a hand through his hair. And I didn't want you to see this part of me? One part. The one that didn't belong. They sat on the porch steps, silence heavy between them. When I left this town, I swore I wouldn't come back, Ethan began. My family? They weren't like yours. My dad drank. My mom, she left when I was 13. I spent years trying to become someone else, someone better. Clara's heart ached. Ethan, I built a life, a name, thinking if I had enough money, enough success, I'd never have to remember this place. But after the accident, after I lost everything, this was the only place that made sense. Why? Because it was where I was nothing. No expectations, no lies. And me, she whispered. What was I? He turned to her, eyes burning. You were the only truth I ever had. Clara reached for his hand. I don't care about your past, Ethan, but I do care when you keep running from it. I was scared if you knew, you'd see me differently. I see you, all of you, and I'm still here. That night, they sat by the fire, the warmth not just from the flames, but from something rekindled between them. Ethan brought out an old photo album, dusty and worn. These are all I have, he said quietly. Clara opened it, her fingers brushing over faded images. A boy with dark eyes, a woman smiling faintly, a man with too much anger in his stamps. This isn't who you are now. No, he agreed, but it's where I started. As the fire burned low, a knock echoed through the cabin. Clara's heart leapt. Ethan frowned, standing slowly. No one visited. Not here. He opened the door. A woman stood there. Older, worn, but with eyes too familiar. Ethan. His voice caught. Clara's breath stopped. Section 9. The mother he never knew. The air seemed to freeze in the doorway. Clara stood behind Ethan, her hand resting lightly on his back, her mind spinning. His mother? Ethan hadn't spoken a word about her, only that she had left when he was 13. But there she was, older than the memory he carried, yet somehow the same. Her gray hair was pulled back into a loose bun, her coat worn at the edges, her eyes full of something Clara couldn't quite read. Regret? Hope? Desperation? Can I come in? The woman asked softly, her voice fragile. Ethan didn't move. Please, Ethan, she said again. I just want to talk. Clara squeezed his hand. Let her in. He stepped aside reluctantly, the muscles in his jaw tense. She entered, her eyes scanning the cabin as if grasping for some piece of him in the room. I didn't know if you'd even still be here, she said, wringing her hands. I almost wasn't, Ethan replied coldly. Why now? She swallowed hard. I've been looking for you, I mean, not the way I should have, but when I heard you'd come back here, I had to. You had to? He echoed. Where were you when I needed you? Clara felt the sharp sting in his words. I was sick, Ethan. I had to leave. Your father, he would have destroyed me if I stayed. I thought I was protecting you. You left me with him, Ethan snapped. You thought that was protecting me? Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't know what else to do, and I was scared. I didn't know how to fight him. Ethan turned away, his shoulders rigid. I'm not here to ask forgiveness, she whispered. I just want to know the man you became. Clara stepped into the kitchen to give them space, her heart aching. She glanced at the old photo album still on the table. One picture caught her eye. Ethan as a boy, sitting on the porch steps looking out at something beyond the frame. So much of him had been shaped by things she'd never known. And now, his past was knocking at the door, in ways neither of them could have expected. Inside the living room, Ethan sat stiffly across from his mother. You should. Maybe, she said, but I couldn't. Why now? Why after all these years? She reached into her bag and pulled out a worn envelope. Because I kept something from you, something I should have told you long ago. He stared at it, his chest tightening. I don't want anything from you. Just read it. He hesitated, then snatched the envelope from her hand. Clara stepped back in, sensing the weight in the room. She sat beside Ethan as he opened it. Inside was a letter, old yellowed, written in shaky handwriting. My dearest Ethan, if you're reading this, it means I didn't come back like I promised. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for every night you waited, every tear you shed. Your mother didn't leave you because she didn't love you. She left because I made it impossible for her to stay. I was a broken man, angry at the world, angry at myself. But it was never your fault. You were the best thing I ever had, and I ruined it. Take care of your mother if you can find it in your heart. She loved you more than I ever knew how to show. Love, Dad. Ethan's hand shook. He stared at the paper, his mind blank. Clara leaned into him. Ethan? His mother's voice broke. He gave it to me the day I left. I didn't have the courage to give it to you then, but I kept it, hoping someday. He stood abruptly, the letter falling to the floor. I can't do this, he said, pacing the room. You have every right to hate me, she said, rising slowly, but I had to try. Clara stood, stepping between them. Maybe he's not ready. Maybe he never will be. Ethan's mother nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'll go. After she left, Ethan stood by the window, watching her walk away. I waited for her every day, he whispered. She never came. Clara walked over, wrapping her arms around him from behind. She's here now. It's too late. Clara turned him gently. It's only too late if you want it to be. That night, Ethan sat alone on the porch, the stars above silent witnesses. Clara watched from the doorway, knowing he needed space. He clutched the letter in his hand, reading it again and again. And then something shifted. He stood, and he began to walk toward town, toward the past, toward whatever came next. Section 10. The letter, the truth and the choice. The morning was still, the kind of hush that hangs in the air just before something breaks. Clara awoke alone, the sheets beside her cold, Ethan's place empty. Her heart raced as she rose, pulling on a sweater and stepping outside. The truck was gone. She grabbed her phone. No messages. Ethan drove down the winding road into town, the letter from his father folded neatly in the passenger seat. His chest ached with memories, with questions, with the sharp sting of betrayal and the dull throb of something deeper. He didn't know what he was going to say, or if he was ready. But he knew he couldn't carry this weight alone anymore. At the edge of town stood the small white church he remembered from boyhood, now faded, the paint peeling. His mother sat on the front steps, as if she knew he'd come. She looked up, eyes red but hopeful. Ethan stopped in front of her, hands in his pockets. I read the letter, he said. She nodded, unsure what to say. I don't forgive you, he added, his voice low. Not yet. Her face fell, but she didn't turn away. But I want to know why, he said. I want to know everything. They sat together on the steps, the sky heavy above them, as she began to speak. When I met your father, he wasn't like he became. He was kind, gentle, But life, it broke him. When he lost his job, when he started drinking, I didn't know how to help. And when he started hitting me, I thought if I stayed, I could protect you. Ethan's fists clenched. But it got worse. One night, I thought he was going to kill me, so I left. I told myself I'd come back when I was strong enough, when I could take you away. Why didn't you? Ethan asked, his voice cracking. I got sick, Ethan. I ended up in a shelter, then the hospital. I wasn't strong enough. I failed you. He looked away, fighting the storm inside him. I built my life pretending none of this mattered, he whispered, that if I just worked hard enough, I could erase it all. I know, she said gently, and I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm here. If you ever want me to be part of your life, I'll be waiting. They sat in silence, the distance between them both vast and narrowing. Back at the cabin, Clara waited, her heart tight in her chest. She paced, checked her phone again, and then sat down to the letter Ethan had left on the table. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Clara, I'm sorry I left without telling you. I needed to face this alone, to see if I could let go of what's been holding me back. But I want you to know something. Meeting you changed everything. You saw me when I couldn't even look at myself. You loved me without knowing the worst parts of me, and even when you did, you stayed. That's something I never thought I'd have. If I come back, it's because I choose you, not just for today, but for every day. If I don't, I want you to live the life you deserve, not waiting for a man who couldn't let go of his past. I love you. Ethan. Tears spilled down her cheeks, her breath catching. She grabbed her keys, heart pounding. She had to find him. Ethan drove back toward the cabin, the road familiar now, the air clearer. He didn't have all the answers, but something inside him had shifted. He could breathe again. When he pulled up, Clara's car was gone. His chest tightened. He rushed inside. The letter was gone. Clara's car sped down the road toward town, eyes searching, praying, and then, in the distance, she saw headlights. And she slammed on the brakes. So did he. Ethan jumped out of the truck, as Clara did the same. They met in the middle of the road, breathless. You left, she said, voice breaking. I had to. I read your letter. I meant every word. She reached for him, tears streaming. You came back. I choose you, Clara. I'll always choose you. She pulled him into her arms, holding him like she'd never let go. That night, they sat by the fire, the past no longer a weight, but a part of the journey. Ethan took her hand. There's something I didn't tell you. What? I bought the land, this place. I want to build something real here, with you. Her eyes widened. You're staying? If you'll stay with me. She smiled through tears. Always. As the fire flickered, Clara leaned her head on his shoulder. The storms had passed. The truth had come, and luck, real, unshakable, remained. When love is the answer. The seasons changed quietly in the mountains. Spring melted into summer, and the trees that once stood bare now stretched their arms to the sky, full of life. The cabin, once a simple shelter from the storms of their pasts, had become a home, a place not of escape but of belonging. Ethan stood on the porch, coffee in hand, watching Clara in the garden. She knelt by the flowers she'd planted just weeks ago, the sun catching in her hair, her laughter rising as she scolded a stubborn weed. For the first time in his life, Ethan Reed wasn't running. Not from his father's shadow, not from his own doubts, not from love. He was here, present, and he was free. They had faced the hard truths. Ethan had gone back to town, faced his mother, and slowly, day by day, they were learning to heal. The scars would never fully disappear, but they no longer controlled him. Clara, too, had learned something vital. Love didn't have to be a gamble. It didn't have to be given with fear, with hesitation. It could be bold, steady, and unwavering. She had risked her heart, and found it held, completely. On a quiet afternoon, they sat together under the old oak tree behind the cabin. The air was thick with the scent of pine and the soft hum of life returning. Ethan reached into his pocket, his fingers brushing the worn edges of a small velvet box. He turned to her, his eyes gentle but firm. "Clara." She looked up, curious. "I've been thinking about everything we've been through, about how you found me when I didn't even know I was lost." Her eyes softened, lips parting. "I used to think love was something that happened to other people, the ones who didn't carry the kind of past I did. But then you showed me that love, real love, doesn't care about what we've done or what we've been through." He opened a box, revealing a simple, elegant ring. "It only cares that we choose each other, every day." Clara's breath caught, hands trembling. "Will you choose me, Clara? Will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes, but her smile was radiant. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Life they built. Years later, a letter sat on a windowsill in the same cabin, sunlight warming the inked words. "To our daughter?" This place wasn't always what it is now. Once it was just wood and stone, a place where a broken man tried to hide from the world. But then your mother found me, and she showed me that love isn't something we earn, it's something we give. No matter what life brings, know this: you were born from a love that endured everything, a love that was tested, a love that grew in the hardest soil, but bloomed anyway. And no matter where you go or what you face, love will always be the answer. God. Dear reader, if you've ever been hurt, if you've ever questioned whether love is worth the risk, this story is for you. Because love is still real. Because love, even after loss, even after pain, can find you in the most unexpected places. And when it does, hold on. Because the life you build together will be worth everything. What did you think of Clara and Ethan's journey? Share your thoughts in the comments. Would you have trusted Ethan? Do you believe in second chances? Like, subscribe, and let us know if you want more stories like this.